Ouija board, commonly pronounced Ouija or Ouija. A Ouija board is a method of communication with a subconscious element, using a board or separate pieces of paper with all the letters of the alphabet, the numbers from 0 to 9, and the words yes and no written on it. There are other different types of boards, but this is typically the most common. Some people just use a board with yes and no written on it. Others have a board with lots of other commonly used words on it, as well as the basics. Whatever you use, these are generally all lumped together and collectively known as Ouija boards. People will tell you very scary stories about Ouija boards, of how someone they know became possessed and their head span round and vomited green slime everywhere, and how it predicted everyone would be murdered and by the morning they were all dead. There is one major flaw with this, and this is that these stories are generally rubbish and do not have a grain of truth in them whatsoever. Saying that, because of all the mythology associated with the Ouija board, it is dangerous to treat them lightly, as people can become obsessed with what happens, and so people of a nervous disposition or possibly suffering from mental health issues should stay clear of them. What you need to try out Ouija board experiments is a Ouija board and a planchette. But do not panic, as these items, in true Blue Peter style, can be made at home with washing up bottles and double-sided sticky tape, or more likely Scrabble tiles and an upturned glass. The most common way to replicate a Ouija board is to take a large piece of paper, write all the letters of the alphabet in a circle, and then write the numbers 0 to 9 somewhere on the board, and near the middle write the words yes and no, making sure that in the actual middle of the board you leave a neutral space. Then take an upturned glass and place it onto the neutral space in the middle. All place your fingers lightly on the glass and start to ask questions. The glass will hopefully start to move and spell out the answers. That is the general idea of how it should work. In reality, what is more likely to happen is that the glass may move slightly, you will all accuse each other of moving it, and then total gibberish will be spelt until you find you're talking to the devil, Hitler, or the latest serial killer or victim who has died. This is one reason why, generally speaking, Ouija boards are not taken too seriously, but they can offer some interesting and fun results. I was once involved in a Ouija board session, and one person wrote down some information, that being the initials of someone she knew and their age when they died. There were 5 people holding the glass who then got both of these details correct without any form of deviation or misspelling. This does not, however, prove that we are talking to that dead person. We may somehow have experienced a mental link with the person writing down the information, and turned that into a movement of the glass and subconsciously pushed it to where we wanted it to go. One method of making a Ouija board, which I have found to be very effective, is by using Scrabble tiles. These smaller, travel rubber Scrabble tiles are best, placed in a circle, then write on some small scraps of paper the words yes and no, place a piece of glass over the top. I use the glass from a cheap clip frame. Spread cooking oil over the sheet of glass, as this allows the pushed glass to move easier. Have one person who is not pushing the glass to sit with a pad and paper to write down the results and film what is happening. The person writing down the results could well be the most important person in the room, as you will be amazed at how much you forget when you're holding the glass, and this person can quickly look up answers from 10 minutes previous. Many reasons are offered up to why these boards do what they do, but the most common one that I have found is that the people holding the glass are subconsciously pushing it around the boards to spell out words. So if you believe in spirits, then there is no reason to think that these spirits couldn't communicate with us subconsciously and tell us where to push the glass. Problems. You may find people saying that if you rearrange the letters that you've come up with, then you find it spells a certain name or place. But then anyone who watches Countdown will tell you that you can make many words from a handful of letters, so do not fall into this trap. You may find your answers affected by the beliefs and knowledge of the people in the room. I've found that the more religious a group is, then you're more likely to get demonic answers. The more boring a group of people, the more boring the response. The more hyperactive a group, the more outlandish the results. Ouija boards can be a lot of fun, but do treat them with respect, as we are dealing with forces unknown here. And by that, I do not mean necessarily ghosts and demons, but with the human mind, and you wouldn't start messing about with your mind if you didn't know what you were doing. I will conclude by saying that I have done a lot of Ouija boards, and whilst finding them slightly pointless, they can be fun and yield some interesting results. But the most important finding is that no one I have ever worked with has ever had a bad experience with them or knows anyone that has. Yet for some reason, we all seem to have a friend of a friend of a friend that became possessed after using one.